Here's a simple app that uses databases to give you outputted results based on the letter that you type in. This first example is country, so if I type a P, it will give you all the countries in the list that start with a P. I'll do a few more. Here's an A, an I. All right, and I'll see another example. All right, so by changing one line of code, I've switched it to search dog names. That didn't work. Let's try a different letter. There we go. An R, an A, lots of A's. I wonder how many dog names start with K. All right, and let's do one more. And this time we're going to be looking at NCAA Division I basketball teams. You can just type B, and there's the national champions. Let's try a W. There's a bunch of those. There's Western Kentucky University, good school. And maybe one more. Let's see how many schools start with a Z. None. What about a Y? None. What about a Q? None. What about an E? There we go. East Carolina, Eastern Michigan. What else is a rare one? Maybe V. Vanderbilt, Virginia, Virginia Tech. Okay, so this is not a long program. It's only about 14 lines of code, and I'm going to walk you through making it now. The first thing to do is to create a new project in App Lab. That'll take you here. And you can ignore all the code for now. We just need to set up the design. There are only three elements of this. There's the output, which is a label. And I'm going to make that as big as I can because I want to have lots of results. And I'll make the font just a little bit bigger, mainly so you can see it. We'll start big and get small later. And then we need an input field where a user can type in something, which will be right here. It's text input. And lastly, we need a button to check. All right, so we've got it looking like what we want it to look like. Now let's mess with what they say in the IDs. So up here on the text, I'm going to call it output label. And for the text, I'm just going to say output. Now I'm realizing maybe that font is too big. So I'm just going to shrink it till it fits on one line. That'll do. And now I'll click on this text input. I'm just going to put input. That's fine. And for the placeholder, I might put type here. I can make that a little bit bigger. All right. For the button, I'll call it check BTN, and I'll put submit. Maybe I'll call it submit BTN. All right, I'm done with the design. That's all we really need. You can pick your favorite colors. Yeah, that'll do. All right. And you can pick the color of the output if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it alone. Now to the code. So the first thing we want to do is only make things happen when the button is pressed. So the button I called submit button, and whenever it's clicked, I want things to happen. So the first thing I want to happen is I need a way to store whatever's typed in there, because right now I can type whatever I want to, but nothing happens. Right? So I'm going to make a variable to store that, and I'm going to call it user input. And I'm going to set that equal to whatever's in that box. And to get whatever's in that box, I'm going to use get property. And I'm going to get the inputs text. Just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead, as soon as I get it, I'm going to set this outputs text to the same thing. So I'm going to set the output labels text to, I got to get rid of these quotes. I'm going to type in this new variable, user input. Just like that. All right, so that's working. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is after I type it and hit submit, I'd like this word to go away so that I have an empty box. So I'm just going to set the inputs text back to nothing, which is just empty quotes like that. See how it's going back to the original type here? That's what I wanted. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is isolate just the first letter of whatever the user inputs and focus on just that one letter. So I'm going to make a variable called first letter. And I'm going to set that equal to the user's input dot substring. And I'm going to go from position 0 to 1, which will be that first spot. Now I typed all that in, but you can find it in the blocks right here. Okay. And then I'm going to set the output. I'll just move this down. Instead of setting it to the whole thing, I'm just going to set it equal to first letter. We'll see if that works. Okay, see how I'm just getting the first letter? Okay, so that's working. But if I type a capital letter and a lowercase letter, it's not going to know the difference. So I need to set it so it's always capital. So here's what I'll do. I'll say first letter dot to uppercase. And that's also in here and under variables. It's right here to uppercase. All right, let's try that out. So if I type a lowercase cat, I should get a capital C. If I type a lowercase quail, I should get a capital Q. All right, that's working. And now the reason we want to change them to uppercase is so we can compare them to our data. So let's take a look at some data. There's a ton of stuff in here. You can even import your own stuff, but let's just start with countries. So under geography, countries and territories, you can take a peek at it. This is the only part I really care about is these country names here in this first column. So I'm going to go ahead and import that data, countries and territories, and then come over here and add it to our program. So first I'll make a variable to hold it all. Say var countries equals, and then under data I'm going to say get column. And I'm going to choose this imported data list, and I get to choose my column, and the only thing I really want this time is country name. Now, there's a lot of cool stuff in here like national anthem, GDP, but for now just country name. All right, and then I want to check if each name in the list starts with this first letter that I'm inputting. So to go through the whole list, I need a for loop, and I'm going to say start at 0 and go all the way up to countries dot length. I'll say if. This is where things are going to get a little strange. So for each country in the column, if the country's first letter, oh here I need to put 0,1, is equal to the first letter of the input, then I want to set it to a new variable. And since I haven't created that yet, I'll go ahead and make it up here. I'm going to call it my countries. Okay, var my country. So if the country's first letter equals the first letter of the input, then we are going to append my countries with countries square bracket I. Now append just means add to the end of the list. All right, and then the last thing we need to do is we need to display, instead of just displaying the first letter, down here at the very end on this output, we're going to display something else. And that something else is going to be, we're going to take all these items in here, right, and join them together. Between them, we're going to put a space, comma, space. Let's reset it and run that. Interesting. So they are working. They're just not showing up over there. Let's take this output and shrink it. All right. Let's take Apple. It's going to take the first letter. Give me all the countries with that first letter. Why is it still so big? Let's go back to design. Outputs, text size. Let's make it. All right, let's run this. And show B. It's going to take the first letter. Give me all the 8 countries with a space, comma, space between them. Let's try brick. There we go. Let's try uncle. We should try some combination of capital and lowercase. So let's do pollo. All right, I think that's working. Now, how to change it to other data sets easily? Well, let's just come in here and pick animals. We'll do cats this time. So here's a big bunch of cats. Let's see how many. Let's go to the bottom of the list. 67, that's not such a huge data set, but we can do it. Let's import that one. And let's also import under sports. Let's just do NBA teams. Let's preview that one. And we've got team won't be the one we need here. What's over there? Oh, there's pictures included. That's really cool. So we'll add NBA teams. All right. So back in the code, the only thing we have to change is this get column. just get a column from a different one. Let's do cats, and let's choose name. And that's it. So if we type in A, it's going to give us all the cats that start with A. If we type J and T, and now if we want to try the NBA teams, it should be a much shorter list, right? And I think it's going to be the city first. So if we say B, and if we try it with we'll try capital G, try lowercase I think it's working.